Good morning from Vietnam. Good afternoon to you, Jim. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon and joining our Inside Sharing shows. On behalf of our listeners around the world, we would like to say thank you.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I consider this an honor. I've seen the lineup of all the many people that you've interviewed over the years, and that's a pretty impressive group of people, so I'm happy to join it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jim. You haven't been to Vietnam, but now you've been to Vietnam. All right. So
Uh,
in our culture, it's going to be very honored if we can have you to have introduced a little bit about who you are and the work that you do. Can you please do that?
Certainly. And I've been to Asia, but I haven't had the privilege of going to Vietnam yet. I've been, in Indonesia and Bali. I've been to Malaysia, a number of places there. I've been 10 times to Australia. I've been to Singapore multiple times. And from 2015 to 2019, I lectured throughout all of mainland China, from one side of the country to the other, top to bottom, and did I don't know how many lectures, but 23 major cities. And so I've spent a lot of time in the Pacific and in Asia, and surrounding you without getting to where you are. I started many years ago in the United States, in the southern central United States, the state of Arkansas, the town of Little Rock, which is the capital city of Arkansas. Arkansas, I guess, internationally is best known as the home state of Bill Clinton,
Ah,
who was president of the U.S. And Bill Clinton and I are, coincidentally, the same age. And also, Donald Trump is the same age, and George Bush is the same age.
ah.
We were all born in the year 1946. And I think I made the better choice of the group because I loved my path. I wouldn't want to go the direction they went. But I've had so much fun. I started out humbly. I started out, my father worked for the telephone company as a repairman. My mother was a homemaker and took care of my grandparents. My grandfather had had a stroke and couldn't speak or move for the last 7 years of his life, so he was in a hospital bed in our front bedroom. I had a little sister, and my grandmother was there in the house. And we didn't have much money, and I didn't expect to go to college and get an advanced degree. I went to a state college, excuse me, for 2 years, and decided that was not doing it for me. I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't committed, so I dropped out. I took a job working in a warehouse unloading trucks and boxcars. Then I got a job as a clerk working in a department in a bank, and I moved up a little bit through the ranks there. And then one time, years later, I was 26 years old,
Mm.
1972. I was 26 years old, newly married with a baby at home, and I was working as a clerk, a government clerk at the Housing Authority in Little Rock, Arkansas, for $525 a month. And I had no college degree. I had no money in the bank. I had no connections to, no people to open doors for me. I had never been encouraged to dream big dreams and, plan to have a big life. So I thought I would have a very unremarkable but pleasant life.
Mm.
And one day I was sitting there, and I heard in the next room a radio broadcast. And the man on the radio said, if you'll spend 1 hour extra every day studying your chosen field, in 5 years or less, you will be a leading expert in that field.
Mm.
And I did the math. Hour a day, 5 days a week, say 50 weeks a year, 5 years, that's 1,250 hours.
Mm.
Yeah. If I studied one narrow subject, not a broad subject like leadership, but a narrow subject like managing people or developing systems, or whatever, a narrow subject for 5 years, I could be a leading authority on that.
Mm.
Then I thought, what do I want to be a leading authority about? No idea. thought about it for many weeks, and then I decided I want to do what the man on the radio does. I want to be an expert in the field of human development. I want to teach people how to succeed. Two problems. I had not succeeded, and I was not a good speaker. So how am I going to go motivate other people if I haven't even motivated myself yet? So I said, he told me the formula: 1 extra hour every day, 1 narrow field, human development. So I became fanatical about human development. I spent, I don't know how many hours a week, but many, many, many extra hours, more than one, every week studying human development. I read all the books that were available back in the 1970s: Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Positive Thinking, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Watch this. These are the actual books.
Yeah.
Old and yellowed pages. This is Zig Ziglar's book.
Uh-huh.
See you at the top. This is How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is Think and Grow Rich, first edition. I mean, that was about all there was back then. And I read those books and I got excited. You know, it was expanding my world and my expectations of my own future. And so I got involved in the Junior Chamber of Commerce, the JCs, which is a social club, a civic club like Kiwanis and Lions and others like that, but it's only for young adults. And the purpose of JCs is not community service. It's leadership training. And the way they do it is community service. So if you and I are members of a JC's chapter back in the 1970s, and we wanted to go out and raise funds for a charity, and we decided we were going to have a fundraising project, then we would have to submit a plan for the project, get it approved by the chapter, the board of directors, local board of directors, and then go and implement the plan, and then report our results in writing as well. And so that's how everyone learned to set goals, make plans, motivate volunteers, find resources, follow through, and get things done. So I did that for 400 meetings in 2 years.
Wow.
For no pay, after work and on weekends. Now that, my friend, is fanatical. So I was all in to learn everything I could in every spare moment I could find to become capable of moving up through the ranks and become someday successful. Well, after 2 years of doing that, I got promotions and raises at work because all I was learning in these volunteer meetings was showing up on the job. And my boss was saying, "Hey, you're doing very well. Come here. How would you like to do this instead?" Well, yeah. Okay. Well, that's got a higher paycheck. Here you go. So I moved up. And then I got a call one day from a man who had been to some of these JC's meetings I had been attending, because I was always speaking, giving reports at these meetings, or teaching something I had learned from a handbook that afternoon. And I was teaching it that night, basically reading it that night. Well, anyway, he said, "Jim, I think you've got a lot of potential, and I want you to go to work with me selling the motivational training materials of Earl Nightingale." Well, Earl Nightingale's the man I had heard on the radio. And he was on 900 radio stations all over the world at that time. And I said to this man, his name was Harold Gash, and I said, "Harold, I don't know how to sell." He said, "Yes, you do. I've seen you." I said, "No, I've tried selling and I failed at it." He said, "What were you selling?" I said, "Life insurance and mutual funds." He said, "How old were you?" I said, 22 years old, 23. He said, "So you were selling investments and you didn't even have any money in the bank?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You don't see why you failed?" I said, "Well, now I do." And he said, "Look, you are a practitioner. You're not just a learner. You're practicing these ideas and you're making it work and you're teaching other people. Why don't you do this for a living and sell Earl Nightingale's training materials to businesses? So I did that. And after doing that for a year or so, I got a call from the USJC's, Junior Chamber of Commerce, national headquarters in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They said, Jim, there are 356,000 members of the JCs, and we are the headquarters in charge of all of them. We design and promote the training programs that are used nationwide. We want you to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma and become the director of leadership training.
Wow.
And I did. And so for another 2 years, I wrote training manuals, taught other people how to do these programs, and flew around the world, around the nation, giving speeches at conventions. So my world just exploded and became huge. And then after 2 years of doing that, I left and went on my own as a professional speaker and trainer, doing training programs on sales and interpersonal communication and goal setting for local businesses. And then it expanded and I started speaking nationwide. And then I met a college professor in California, formed a partnership. We published an audio album. And one day I had moved to California in the meantime. And one day I was sitting in my office and the phone rang and I picked it up and it was Earl Nightingale himself calling me.
Oh.
I went into shock. He said, I just read an article of yours that would be a good audio program. And I said, well, the article you read, sir, is an audio program. He said, I publish audio. I said, oh, I know. I used to sell yours. And he said, well, send it to me. So we sent him our audio album. And he published it worldwide, Relationship Strategies for Dealing with the Differences in People by Jim Cathcart and Tony Alessandra. This is what I looked like back at the time. Unbelievable. They sold $3.5 million worth of that audio album. This is the workbook that went with it in 2 years.
Oh.
So we went from being nobody to being known worldwide in a matter of 2 years. And I've been a professional speaker and author ever since then. And now I've written I've published 23 books. I've written 27. So I've got 4 more in the pipeline. I've delivered 3,400 paid speeches all over the world, been the president of the National Speakers Association, inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame, Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame, and I've received every major award in professional speaking worldwide. Wow. So, wow, what a blessing, what a miracle to be able to go that far, just using a simple idea like 1 extra hour every day, focused on one specific field of study.
Wow. Wow. Jim, thanks a lot for sharing your journey, and that is so beautiful, so amazing. And I want to bring you all the way back into 1972. All right.
Okay.
So because I note down in here the time is 1972. So if I note down correctly, you were working for a government as a clerk back then, right? And then one day you overheard the radio from Earl Nightingale speaking about spending 1 hour extra a day for 5 years and become an expert, becoming the leading authority,
Yeah.
right here. And you decided to go and do that. So it means that before that moment, there was something inside of you, crawling and itching inside of you, want to do something
Right.
differently. So what happened before that 1972 inside of Jim that he really wanna be different. Can you tell us that transition?
Well, when I was, first off, I didn't want to be different.
Mm.
I wanted to be like other people that were doing well.
Ah.
Like when I was a kid, it was TV stars and movie stars and, people like that. Exciting people, cowboys and Indians and army heroes and all the things you'd see in the movies. So that's what I wanted to be. And then Elvis Presley became popular, and I wanted to be like him, singing and playing guitar, but I didn't know how to sing or play guitar. And so I just dreamed of things like that, but I never thought it would be a reality.
Mm.
And what happened with that radio broadcast was I was sitting there 50 pounds overweight, so much heavier than I am today, much, much heavier. And in poor shape physically, because I was not an athlete, had not been an athlete in school, was not a superior student in school. I was an average student, and I expected an average life. And then this radio broadcast said, no, you don't have to be average.
Mm.
You can be extraordinary, and here's how. It's going to take a lot of work for a long time, but it'll pay off.
Mm.
And when I realized that that was true, then I started thinking, well, what do I want to do? And I didn't know. And then it hit me, it became clear I wanted to do what he was doing, but I didn't know what he was doing. It just felt right to me.
Mm.
And since that time, I've gotten to know, all those various people. Zig Ziglar was a friend of mine.
Mm.
Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. I knew him and worked with him a couple of times.
Mm.
I knew people who knew Dale Carnegie and worked with Dale Carnegie. So I'm one generation removed from the big heroes. Like W. Clement Stone was the manager and partner of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
Well, I worked with W. Clement Stone on 2 or 3 occasions.
Oh.
So I knew him and he knew me, and we were on the stage together. Wow. This is unbelievable, and now I've got all these books. I've been able to have all these wonderful honors, and it's all because I found a field that was dear to my heart, and I dedicated myself to succeed in that field no matter how long it took.
Mm.
But people said to me, well, what if you failed? Well, I failed a lot of times on the way to here. Failure's not permanent unless you embrace it.
Mm.
So failure is the training necessary for success.
Yeah.
And so you go through success, failure, success, failure, success, failure, building, building, building. But when I started all this, I was an assistant, a helper for a man who didn't need help. I was an assistant loan specialist, and the loan specialist was bored. So my day was filled with looking for things to do. I would read books. I read the Bible cover to cover at work in 3 months. That's a big book. And so I had that much spare time. I did little work, but the job was not necessary. It was a government job that shouldn't have existed. But luckily, as I started to improve and I got those promotions, then my job became rewarding and much more enjoyable. And I got some minor raises, and then the opportunity to go to the JC's headquarters, where I got a major raise. And then after I left there, my business grew. First year, I made about as much as I made at the JC's headquarters, which was just like $18,000 a year. A year.
Yeah.
Second year, I made $28,000. Third year, I made $36,000, $64,000, $89,000, $107,000, $174,000, and it just kept growing from there over all these years.
Wow. Yeah, I wanna ask, and that 26 years old Jim, right? So you heard the radio, and then you you knew that that is something that you would want to do. You go on. You told me that you work for free. You spend a lot of hours and supporting people for 2 years without even getting paid for that. And that
Yeah,
persistence, that drive was so strong inside of you that you know that even though you're not gonna get paid, one day in the future you're gonna get paid. And you're gonna get
yeah,
rewarded and reap the result from that. And why a lot of people these days, and like they don't want to invest time because if they don't see the instant rewards. So I want to understand. And at that 26 years old, you spend numerous hours like that doing something that to a lot of people we see is at no future at all. It's just a free works. And so what was inside your head back then though?
I don't know. I just I believed that if I stayed the course
Mm,
and continued to do the work, that it would ultimately pay off. It's like
mm,
someone said to me, uh, "What if you try and it doesn't work?" Well, it didn't work today.
mm,
It hasn't worked yet. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It
mm.
just means this way wasn't the right way. Like Thomas Edison said he did what 3,000 experiments to discover what became the light bulb, and 2,999 of them were unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But he learned something from each of those, many of which produced other inventions
Mm,
and ultimately paid off in different ways. So the same thing for me, it just every little step along the way added something to the mix until it all became possible. I
mm.
remember when I went to the first National Speakers Association meeting. The association itself was brand new. It was formed in 1973. I joined it in 76,
Oh,
and they
same.
had 200 members. Today they have 3 or 4,000 members, and there's a worldwide organization. But back then it was brand new. And it was just a club of people who gave speeches and got paid for doing so. And they would pass referrals to each other. Hey, I spoke for this group the other day. I'll tell them about you, and you tell your group about me, and we'll get business that way. So we did that. And this was 1976. Well, the membership dues back then were $60,
Mm,
which for me was a challenge. So that would be like, I don't know, $500 today, but still, it was a substantial amount of money to me at the time. And I joined, and I went to the first convention. It was a national convention in Louisville, Kentucky. And there were only a couple of hundred people at the convention, but it was a big deal to me
mm,
because all the heroes that I had heard of in the books, people who had written the books that I had read, they were there.
mm.
And so I go in, rosy cheeks, black hair, young baby face, and well, let's see, that was 1978. So I was 32 years old. And I go into this meeting, and it took all the money I could scrape together to get to the city and buy a hotel room.
Ah,
So I didn't have extra money, and I saw all my speaker heroes there, and I walked up near them when they were standing in a group talking,
mm,
and I just wanted to be near them and hear what they talked about. But
mm.
they opened the group and invited me in. Hello, who are you? Come on in.
Ah,
And so I stepped in, and thank the Lord I had the presence of mind not to talk a lot,
ah.
because they'd say, "Hey, who are you? Tell us about yourself." And of course, I could have talked for 5 or 10 minutes if I had not thought better of it.
Mm,
Instead, I talked for like 1 minute to
mm.
tell them about me, and then I asked about them.
Ah,
Because I wasn't there to teach, I was there to learn.
ah.
And I didn't want them I didn't want to try and impress them with my meager skills and knowledge. I wanted them to educate me with their major skills and knowledge.
Ah,
And so the meeting went along for a while and everything's going fine. And then there's a special luncheon. And it's the first ever Speaker Hall of Fame luncheon where they're giving awards to the first recipients. And the featured speaker for that was a new speaker at the time, Zig Ziglar.
Oh, the
And so
legendary.
I'm in the hallway. I can't afford the $40 extra that it costs to go to the luncheon. So I go across the street outdoors and I buy a hot dog from a street vendor. And I come back in and I'm standing in the hallway eating my hot dog and listening through the door to Zig Ziglar's speech and the award ceremony.
Oh my God.
And when the people would open the door and leave to go to the bathroom, I would hold the door open for a minute and let it slowly close so I could hear more. And then I'd wait for the person to come back, and then I'd hold the door open for a minute and listen some more. So, I've been there at the starter level where I had no credentials, nothing going for me but ambition and the willingness to learn and work. And at that meeting, I volunteered to go put signs on the doorways of the meeting rooms, to stack chairs, to move tables, to find the speaker that's coming up next and escort him to the meeting room, to hand out labels and badges to the people who registered. So I just wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
And so by volunteering, I endeared myself to them as a worthy person.
Oh.
And they included me in more discussions and invited me, to be present when different things were going on. So it was a wonderful experience for me. And I haven't missed a national convention since.
Wow.
And that was a long, long, long time ago.
Wow. Jim, back then you was newly married. Your daughter,
Yep.
your child
Son.
also, your son were also, like about 2 years old, 3 years old, right? So, with that money back then, it was a lot of money put out for, to invest on to what you do, and then hoping for the future change. So I was wondering, I'm wondering how was your wife talk to you back then when Jim kept spending the money going out to convention, going out to events and study. What did she say?
Well, I had the good fortune, I had the blessing of marrying very wisely. I didn't know it at the time, but I had fallen in love with a girl named Paula Duggar and asked her to marry me, and we got married in 1970, had our son in 1971. And she had grown up in a family where her dad worked in a factory. He was a foreman in a factory, manager of a few other people. And she had 4 siblings. She had 3 sisters and a brother. So she's one of 5 children. And they didn't have much money. And her mother took in ironing for other people and did other things, to make extra money. And so she didn't expect me to do great things. My parents hadn't expected it, and I didn't expect it, and my new wife didn't expect it. But when I started getting ambitious and dreaming bigger dreams and thinking, hey, we can really actually do this, she didn't get in my way. And she told me one time, she said, "You are self-made. I didn't help." I said, "Oh, yes, you did." I said, "You didn't doubt me. You didn't criticize me. You didn't second guess me. You didn't make me feel weak and small. You allowed me to grow and to explore and set goals that were beyond what we could understand."
Wow.
I was in a discussion earlier today, and I want to share something that came from that. They were talking about setting goals and identifying things you can do. And here's what I said, and I think this applies here. If you know that you can do it, it's not a goal, it's a to-do. Okay? If you don't know how to do it, it's a goal. The goal is something that needs to inspire you enough to come up with a plan and to test your plan and to change your plan and to persist beyond your plan until you ultimately achieve your goal. That's a goal. So goals are not for things you already know how to do. That's simply just putting something on your list of items to do.
Wow.
Goals are for dreams and inspiration and motivation and causing you to have to become a bigger, better person in order to do it.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I wanna know how Paula responds to when you say to her that she was a big figures in your life that never second guessed you, never doubt about you, and let you to do what you love to do. How did she respond to that beautiful statement that you sent to you talked to her?
She would, well, it made her feel very good.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Oh, well, well. And so let's move
By the
forward.
way, while we're on that subject for a moment,
Yes.
uh, one of the greatest things a spouse can do for their partner is to openly express belief in their possibility.
Oh.
Not just admiration for what they do, that's important, but belief in their capability of becoming better, doing better, achieving more.
Wow.
Because if you have no one to believe in you, then it's very lonely and you have to spend a great deal of time listening to recordings or going to seminars or reading books or doing something to find the encouragement that you were hoping for or that you needed, right? So it really matters to have somebody who believes in you, somebody who is proud of you. One of the greatest things that I ever got from Paula was it's here among this stack of cards that I've gotten for birthdays and Father's Day and anniversary and things over the years. Paula and I have our keepers. You know, some of the cards you like them, you keep them for a while, and then maybe you discard them. But some of them are so special you don't want to ever let them go.
Oh.
And she's got one in there that it says on the outside of the card, there are two women talking to each other, and one woman says to the other one, "That's him over there." And then you open the card up and it says, "One of the greatest things that I love to do is point out who you are to other people."
Oh.
In other words, to show them that I'm proud that I'm married to you.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's pure gold.
It
So
is.
if we can do that for each other, then both parties in that couple get much better,
Wow.
much stronger.
Wow.
And by the way, I've been married for 52 years. 52 years to the same woman, the only woman I ever married, and same for Paula. And people ask us, what's the secret to a marriage? Well, it first off, love has to be there. Second, commitment. We made an agreement early on. Neither of us ever would bring up the subject of divorce unless we were ready to get divorced that day. So there's no threatening, you keep doing that, I'm going to divorce you. If you want out, you're out. It's over. So commit to this. We're in, and we're in it for life, and we love each other, and we're going to find a way to always have it turn out well.
Wow.
Even though there'll be difficulties, it's going to always be toward making it better.
Yeah. I know the journey at the beginning was, struggle, but then look at the journey after. It's so beautiful between the two of you, and I think it's like the harvest coming from the sowing at the beginning, right? And
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, today we've got no reason to do things that are token anymore. If we do something toward each other, it's sincere.
Yeah.
Today, I was walking through the house and I saw her sitting in one of the bedrooms where she has a desk, and she was doing some work on the computer. And I just walked in and interrupted and gave her a kiss and then walked back out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we do that kind of thing all the time.
Beautiful.
It is just little expressions of love that make the whole journey that much sweeter.
Wow. Jim, there's so many amazing people happen to appear in your life, right? And they are all angels that happen, but I think it's a
Yep.
lot of them coming because you attract them to your life also through the works, through the commitment, through the desire to grow and become a better version of yourself every day, right? So, um, I want to bring to the partnership that you and Tony, right? So was it Tony
Yeah, Tony
Alexandra? Yeah,
Alessandra. Yep.
yeah. So Tony Alexandra, the two of you decided to form a company together, and later on you got interaction with like Earl Nightingale himself, right? So what did you two decided to partner together and run the business?
Well, it's like Paula and me, when we met, we fell in love.
Ah,
And we knew that we wanted to stay together.
ah,
That I felt that early on, but it only became clear after a few months. And then I didn't want to ever separate from her. So we got married and we've lived this wonderful life. Tony and I, it was a similar thing in a different way in that he and I became good friends almost instantly.
ah,
He was a college professor. I was a speaker and trainer. And we were speaking at a conference in San Diego, California, and he was in my audience, I was in his audience.
mm,
And so we were talking between meetings and we just enjoyed each other's companies. Lots of laughter, lots of shared goals and interests. And we decided to exchange business leads
mm.
and help each other grow their business. And then I started selling his books as a textbook to go with my seminars because he had written a book as a college professor.
Ah,
And I didn't have a book yet. I had recordings, and that led to us forming a corporation and becoming business partners.
mm,
And business partners all in one checkbook,
yeah.
one set of files. And I moved to California, and we moved into office together. And for 5 years, everything we did jointly. And
Ah,
we ended up writing books and getting them published with major publishers and created a video series that was published by the University of Southern California and Earl Nightingale audio program that went worldwide. And I got elected to the board of directors of the National Speakers Association, and Tony joined the association.
mm,
And after 5 years, we had achieved all of our agreed upon goals
mm,
and started disagreeing on what to do next.
mm,
And so we decided it made better sense for us to go back to being separate businesses
mm,
and being cooperative competitors.
mm.
We would compete for business, but if one got the business or the other, we wouldn't resent it. We would empower it and encourage and then pass it along for the next year maybe.
Ah,
So we became such good friends that even today, he's the executor of my will for when I die.
oh,
That's how close we are.
ah,
And so we've traveled the world together with our wives and taken vacations, and our children grew up together, knowing each other. And there's not a secret I would keep from him. We're that close. And
so,
that's after that. We met in 1979. So
mm,
this has gone on for a long, long time.
so Earl Nightingale himself contact you after the two of you already separated in the business or during
Yeah.
the, all right.
No, while we were together in the business, we
Ah,
were still partners. His desk was over there and mine was here, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was Earl Nightingale.
how
And
was that feeling?
overwhelming. I mean, when I first realized who it was, I was speechless.
Uh,
What do I say? What do I do? And then he put me at ease, and so we had a conversation. And then I sent him our audio program, and he said, "I'll take it." And then he published it, and of course, in 1984 and 85, it went all over the world.
oh,
And then years later, when I was president of the National Speakers Association, I invited him to join me on stage in front of 2,000 professional speakers
oh,
at our convention. and let me interview him about the evolution of the motivational industry that he and I were in. And he agreed tentatively to do that because it was not paid. He said, if I don't get a paid engagement, I'll probably do it, So fine. And then a couple of months later, I got a call, and it was his wife, Diana. And she said, Jim, Earl has died.
Oh my God.
Oh. She said, and he was cremated, and we've spread his ashes here at home in a private ceremony. So we're not going to have a funeral, but I would like very much to have a memorial service at your speakers convention. I said, oh, we would be so honored. It would be wonderful. She said, I want you to speak. I said, no, that's not appropriate. I'm not significant enough. This is Earl Nightingale. It should be world leaders and, famous people. She said, no, Jim, you are the product he was trying to produce. His training was for the purpose of inspiring people to do what you have done, and you've done it. And for that reason, I want you to join me as a speaker at his memorial service. So that day, with hundreds of fellow professional speakers, many of whom were very famous, in the audience, the only speakers on the program were his widow and me. Wow. One of the greatest honors of my career. So imagine the distance between a clerk hearing him on the radio in a random broadcast in 1972 in Little Rock, Arkansas, to that clerk growing up and going into the same field and then being published by Nightingale Corporation, and then ending up as the only outside speaker at his memorial service. Oh my gosh. Well, if that was possible for me, think of what's possible for you and many of the people listening to us.
I know. Wow. And because of that, clerk has the huge motivations from within to becoming a successful person. So everything that he had been doing back then was trying to get a little better, a little bit more opportunity to get a little better, and get closer to the people that can help him to become a little better each day, right? So,
and by the way, there's another key element here. Back then, a woman in my audience once asked me, what was the hardest thing for you in the first years? I said, the hardest thing was believing I could do it.
Yeah.
Because it was not, I didn't always believe I could do it. I just knew I could do the work and keep trying. So the hardest thing in the early years was making sure I was listening to motivational recordings, reading books. If they had podcasts at the time, I would have been listening to those every day to keep the encouragement up, to keep me believing in my own possibilities. Because most of us, unless we've seen it happen in our life, we don't believe yet that it's true. So we're just going on faith. And that faith needs to be refreshed all the time. People say, well, motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does food. So the point is, it's simply spiritual food that keeps us going. That's why people need motivation. They think of motivation as being superficial. No, it's no more superficial than food is temporary and useless.
Yeah. Wow.
Same thing for exercise. The same thing for saying I love you to the person you live with. If you say it once, it doesn't stick forever. You kind of need to remind them.
Yeah.
I still feel it.
Yeah. So right after this conversation, go to see Paula and give her a kiss again. Okay.
Yeah. Occasionally interrupt their work and go give them a kiss.
I know. Hey, Jim, for everything that you touch is so beautiful, and it's really, really, really built and honed the skill for you. And like you do so many different things also over the years that making you becoming the authority on that, on whatever that you do, becoming a guru on selling, guru in speaker and speaking. And so tell us the secret that
Okay.
Yeah.
The secret is you find one narrow field.
Mm.
My narrow field is human development.
Mm.
Human development in the sense of success skills. So if you look at all the books I've written, all of them are about the same subject: how to succeed in life,
Mm.
how to live a better life, how to have a more meaningful and satisfying life and career.
Mm.
So the sales books, sales is about interpersonal communication and solving problems for pay.
Mm.
That's all sales is about. Public speaking is communicating to many people instead of only one and doing it in an effective way.
Mm.
So one-to-one communication, counseling, whatever, coaching, that's simply a speech given to one person, right?
Mm.
And listening is just the part of the skill where you're gathering information before sharing information. So all of these skills, goal setting is focusing your attention and your plans and so forth. All of it comes down to one central set of skills, and that's how to live a successful life by being a good person
Ah.
and solving problems that are worth paying to solve.
Mm. Beautiful.
So what I do today, all these years, 40 plus years into my career, is I still give speeches and I love giving speeches, but more often I'm doing programs like this, podcasts and webinars and interviews and such. And I've created, I don't know how many, but many video courses. Like I just in the year 2022 recorded a 15-part video course on motivation called From Acorns, Seeds to Oaks, the most common tree in America.
Mm.
Acorn is the seed of an oak tree. So from acorns to oaks, how to make your dreams a reality.
Mm.
And I talk about many of the things we touched on here tonight or this morning, depending on when the person's listening. So I also created a course on selling.
Ah.
And the opening session of that course on selling is why not just tell the truth,
Mm.
which takes a very different approach to sales than many people throughout the years have taken,
Yeah.
where it's all about manipulating the other person, persuading the other person. I think it's about helping the other person and doing it in a way that they're willing to pay for it.
Beautiful. Wow.
And I've got another course on public speaking. And it's a full video course that has recordings of some of the live speeches I've given, the full length speeches, and then a lot of short lessons that I recorded here in the United States on a cruise ship in the middle of the East China Sea, in Shanghai, in where was it, Kunming, China,
Ah.
and all kinds of places around the world. And so I've got those, and I've got all my books. And I'm working more often than not as a mentor, coaching other people in a program I call Going Pro. When you're ready to become a professional in your field, then I take you through an 8-week process through Zoom calls and such to get you to the point where you're absolutely certain what you should be working on, how to work on it best, and how to make sure it's going to pay off. And then I get the people together for a mastermind retreat in a resort location, and we, cement the learning in
Mm.
ways that allow breakthroughs. So I'm co-authoring books with people and doing that kind of thing, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
Plus, my wife and I sing, and I play guitar,
I
and
know.
we go to nightclubs and restaurants and wine bars and special events and weddings and company meetings and do performances. And we
Wow.
can do about 500 different songs. And I love doing that.
Wow. Could you, when you have time, can you send me a video of you playing guitar and Paula singing?
Oh, I'll give you something better.
Oh, yes.
There are three words: guitar, music, live. guitarmusiclive.com.
Mm.
That website, guitarmusiclive.com, that is my music website, my professional music website.
Mm.
And it has many, many videos of me performing in different places around the world. It's got an album of audio of songs that you can download, 19 different songs. It has 200 50 photos of me performing in different places and different styles, and a lot more information. So it's a fun website.
All
My
right.
regular website's just my name,
Yeah.
jimcathcart.com or
Wow.
cathcart.com, either one.
I will definitely take a look at guitarmusiclive.com and listen to your performance together with Paula, all right?
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing is we performed last week right
uh,
here in Austin, Texas, where I live now,
uh,
and it was a private meeting in a Western style barbecue restaurant in an upstairs special room, and it was just so much fun. On stage, full lighting. Did I don't know how many songs, 30, 40 songs, something like that. 2 hour performance, and
wow.
just had so much fun. But I love it when she harmonizes with me.
I know, I know. And Jim, I have two last questions for our conversation tonight.
Okay.
All right. So, um, my wife and I, we've been on the quest to help people improve their ability to think because we believe that our thinking capability
But
these days is diminishing. So we can talk to experts and ask them how they think and share that, and people can pick on how these people are thinking and then can learn and apply. Then definitely that will help them to improve their thinking capability. So the question we want for you, Jim, is how have you been growing your thinking over these years?
the answer would be very large. I'm going to give you a portion of the answer.
Yes.
One of the concepts I teach is intelligent curiosity.
Mm,
How to you can learn to be better at being curious. Curiosity is just wanting to know.
mm,
Intelligent curiosity is knowing what to search for,
mm.
how to think, how to ask questions. What sort of questions should you ask? How do you solve problems? What kind of problem is it? Where did it come from? Who does it affect?
Mm.
What are the possibilities? What other things contribute to it? Does it indicate something else? Like when you go to a doctor and you say it hurts right here.
Mm.
Well, you don't want a pill to make the hurt go away. You want the doctor to tell you why it hurts and make that go away.
Yeah.
Then you don't need the pill,
Yeah.
right? So the same thing's true in intelligent curiosity, which I co-authored with a woman named Lisa Patrick, who was at one time a
Ah. Yeah.
private investigator,
Yeah.
which makes for a pretty interesting approach. But
Wow.
it's looking for what comes out of that golden egg. Intelligent curiosity.
Wow. Beautiful. The
And another
intelligent
thing
curiosity. Yes.
is be conscious in your thinking, be conscious of whether you need to be thinking conceptually about the main idea,
Mm.
strategically about how to use the idea, or tactically about the steps in using the idea, because concept, strategy, tactics, that's three levels, and some problems can be solved at the tactical level.
Ah.
Some need to be solved at a strategic level and some at a concept level. So that's another form of thinking discipline that you can learn and get better at.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Like intelligent curiosity. So, and be curious and then be conscious about thinking also, right? So those are the two
Yeah.
advices you gave to us. All right. So Jim, the last question is about the future. All right. So
Yep.
we knew when you were young, you were stay in the family with a lot of and the people, but not in the very in the environment that was not like how do I say it?
Not encouraging. How's
Yeah.
that?
Not encouraging, but it's poor, put it that way. And then you have the drive
Yeah.
to grow up and become getting better, getting expanding your world, right? And then you've been doing that so beautifully, and a lot are coming from the inside of you. Really want to get it, really want to achieve it. And we want to go into the future a little bit from here. um is there anything that exciting you are working on, You
Yeah.
want to share with us and the audience in advance so that we can celebrate with you now?
Thank you. Yes, I have created in the last 2 weeks the Experts Academy Wisdom Council. Experts Academy Wisdom Council. I, I took the advice of the man on the radio and became a leading expert in the field of personal development.
Mm.
And so now I teach other people how to become an expert, a leading expert in their own field,
Mm.
whether that's home improvement, insurance and financial services, uh, motivation and coaching, whatever it happens to be. There are identifiable pathways to becoming an expert, a leading expert in that field. And so I guide people through that in my Going Pro coaching program. And then I've created this year-long program where people enroll for a year to bring me into their life and to come into my life in a way that we are connected all the time, and they can always turn to me for answers and solutions and problem solving. And I'm guiding them through a process where they do the things to establish their credibility as a leading expert, so that at the end of the year they no longer need me. I'm still around if they want me, but they no longer need me. And that's, I think, it should be all of our goal, is to become less and less necessary to the people who we're helping.
Mm.
If your children still need you when they're grown as adults, then you weren't a good parent.
No.
If they can operate on their own, you were a good parent, but they probably would want you to still be active in their lives because they love you for the good job you did.
Mm. Wow.
So the same thing's true for your clients. If you serve your clients well enough, they don't need you anymore, but they might want you anyway.
Uh-huh.
Hey, can we make a smaller deal and still keep this going? Sure.
Wonderful.
And I've had clients that have been with me for 10 years and longer. And it's because of that. You'd say, well, didn't you tell them everything you know in the first 2 years? Probably, yeah.
Wow.
But I kept finding ways to be helpful and valuable to them, to encourage them, support them, bring new information. And I never stop learning. I'm always reading. I'm always attending programs, and going to conferences. And man, there's a lot of living trying to get through me.
Yeah.
And I want to let it happen.
Wow. Jim, thanks so much for being so generous to spend your time joining our show, sharing your stories, a lot of wisdoms, a lot of insights, a lot of moments for us to reflect, to think, and to really embody, your stories and the whatever you brought to the show today. Please,
Well, I like the energy you brought to the show. Seriously, you were throughout the show. You were encouraging. You were respectful. You were courteous. You were curious. Um, you were paying attention, and it was clear from the way you took notes and fed back some comments that you sincerely were listening and trying to understand. And it just made it easier for me and more pleasant for me. And I hope this is the first of many times we get together. I hope I have the opportunity to come to Vietnam and do some presentations and perhaps work with you while I'm there. So that'd be awesome.
wonderful, wonderful. I would love to see it too. And please, before we leave, please tell Paula that that would really, really, really admire her and the strength and the love that you put on onto you, not for that 52 years, and then for always believing in you, like that is so beautiful of her. And I wish that each of us in this world can find, our loved ones just like that, so that we
Too.
can live life so meaningful together.
And if you feel like you don't have that right now, the way to get more of that is give more of that.
Yeah.
If you want to receive more mail, send more mail. If you want to receive more attention, give more attention to others. If you want your family to believe in you, regularly express your belief in them.
Yeah.
And don't wait to have evidence of, of the potential before you express belief in it. If, if it's just observation of what's factual, there's no faith.
Yeah.
That's not belief, that's observation.
Mm.
And if I say, oh, you did that well, well, yeah, you did that well. But that's a small compliment.
Mm.
If I say, you know, I've seen you do things like this several times, and sometimes you really struggle, but you always figure it out. And you always end up doing it so well. You're so committed to doing the right thing. I admire that in you. Boy, you give them a compliment like that, they're not going to forget that compliment.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Jim, a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing that. All right. So, yeah. Well, I really look forward to seeing you in Vietnam one day, seeing you and Paula all together. And
Okay.
yeah, I wish you to have a wonderful evening and enjoy life, enjoy what you do. You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
You have a wonderful evening, Jim. Bye
Okay.
bye for now.
Bye.